And good afternoon from Philadelphia. Frank here with yet another episode of UFO News Network Sunday. We've got some news, recent stuff coming up, and then a deeper dive into the past. So let's talk about what's going on right now. Within the last week or so, the combination of George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell released a video and a series of photographs that was leaked to them via apparently the military, that these images and video was in fact direct from the inside, and it got out. And here's the Pentagon confirmation. I can confirm that the referenced photos and videos were taken by Navy personnel, and the UAPTF has included these incidents in their ongoing examinations. So let's take a closer look now. First of some of the photographs that were included. There's that one, and take a good look at that. Won't try to get into any kind of analysis until after we go through them. You've had the opportunity to look at the photographs there. And let's also go to some video. There were some additional, there was some additional photographs, not very good quality, but this particular spherical object appears to be going into the water. So that was another. It was 3 photographs. It was put together into sort of an animated GIF by a fellow over at the Twitter calls himself Signal. So he did a nice job there getting a better idea of what that looks like. Again, it's kind of unfortunate we don't have the video of that, and it clearly came from a video, and these aren't photographs. And then that's basically it for that. And then also we had an additional video, and I'm going to pull that up really quick. Hang on a sec. This was a little bit more interesting in that it was a night vision. Here we go. There's a night vision. Looks like it was taken via cell phone through a night vision monocular. And there you see this particular, supposedly a UFO. This one, I have to admit, when I first saw it, it's pretty obvious, folks, that this is sort of an ordinary aircraft. You can see the flashing, and roughly it conforms to FAA regulations. The planes need flashing lights cycling between 40 and 100 times a minute. And this is right on target with sort of the minimum there. The 40 flashes per minute. You can see it going, just one every 1 and change second. And the triangular shape, and I think this is accurate, was due to bokeh effect, the fact that it is a cell phone camera taken through night vision. I've seen, I've seen plenty of airplanes and in the sky with night watching, and as soon as I saw that flashing pattern, I recognized it immediately as sort of a normal aircraft. And so you see that. And that's about where that is. I don't believe that this is that what we're seeing here is any kind of ET spacecraft. Unfortunately, this is a normal plane. Now I want to go back to this article by Tyler Rogaway over at The Drive, and what he was saying is that let me read what he has to say here. We may not know the identities of all the mysterious craft that American personnel and others have been seeing in the skies as of late, but I have seen more than enough to tell you that it is clear that a very terrestrial adversary is toying with us in our own backyard, using relatively simple technologies, drones and balloons, and making off with what could be the biggest intelligence haul of a generation. That may be a disappointment. some who hope the origins of all these events are far more exotic in nature. The strategic implications of these bold operations, which have been happening for years undeterred, are absolutely massive. The utter lack of vision and early robust interest in regards to this emerging threat will go down as one of the Pentagon's biggest strategic missteps of our time. The gross inaction and stigma surrounding unexplained aerial phenomenon as a whole has led to what appears to be the paralyzation of the systems designed to protect us and our most critical military technologies, pointing to a massive failure in U.S. military intelligence. This is a blind spot we ourselves have literally created out of cultural taboos and a military-industrial complex that is ill-suited to foresee and counter a lower-end threat that is very hard to defend against. I think that's an awful lot of hyperbole, and I will get to that. What I would say my concern here is we do have these sort of, it doesn't surprise me at all, we do have these sort of drone and balloon reconnaissance missions performed by some adversary. I think it's almost certain that we do know who it is and that we do know what these things are as far as this goes here. But what I think we're seeing is perhaps some muddying of the waters in terms of the really extraordinary cases that we're not seeing. It was sort of like with the release of last year of some Air Force reports and some Navy reports by the Drive. They got these out that were kind of ordinary, nothing hypersonic, nothing that could stop on a dime or could accelerate to multi-Mach speeds from a hovering position. These are ordinary aircraft. One thing about the UFO phenomenon, as we've been discussing it over the last few years, is that we've gotten away from some of the explanations that were used in the past. Canopy reflections. A planet, atmospheric temperature inversions, that type of thing, other atmospheric effects that might lead to some kind of a sighting. We're getting away from that. These are objects for sure, but these are clearly, these aren't the UFOs that we're looking for, as I said in our headline for the show. These are drones, these are balloons, and I'm a little concerned since they almost certainly happen a lot more than the truly exotic ET-related experiences, that any kind of UAPTF report, I'm getting a little concerned that those type of sightings, those type of more exotic encounters might get well buried underneath sort of an avalanche of this type of data. Now, the idea that I think Rogoway engages in an awful lot of hyperbole here, strategic implications we're being toyed with. The truth is that this sort of thing has been going on a long time, and more than just recently, because militaries have been using balloons for reconnaissance since the late 1700s. They were used during the Napoleonic War. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Napoleonic Wars, it was the one that featured Napoleon. We're talking about the very late 17th century, the late 1700s and the early 1800s. So, here we see some illustrations. Here's one apparently from 1795 where, balloons are being used. Obviously, drones are a more recent development. Some early drones were flown as early as the early part of World War II for target practice. But now we're seeing it, and there's little doubt in my mind that this is not really the serious problem that Rogoway builds it up to be. But what I am concerned about is this is perhaps a bit of a threat to any kind of UFO disclosure that might take place through this UFO report that's going to the Senate Select Committee. Yeah, also balloons were used during the American Civil War. And, well, it is interesting. He does take some shots at the Pentagon. It's very interesting. The Union Army had a balloon corps. The Southerners, the Confederacy, couldn't even get their balloons off the ground. They couldn't make a balloon that would work effectively. But the North did. But unfortunately, the corps was disbanded for a number of different reasons. Number one, the balloonists themselves weren't they weren't members of the military. They were private contractors. So there were a couple issues there. Number one, if they got caught, they could be executed as spies, which you certainly don't want. And number two was because they were private contractors, they got paid better than the military officers, and that created some issue there. There were some issues that they didn't want to use it. But after the war, a Confederate officer was saying, I could never figure out why they stopped the balloon corps. It was very effective. It caused us to have to do things differently, and so there's that. That's getting a little bit off track, but I think it is an interesting point to talk about a little bit. And then, let's go and let's talk about where Rogoway is talking about toying with the military here. And let's bring up another video. Here it is. Here, let's bring up this one, and let's take a look at this. So we see the military being toyed with. Yeah, we do. These are MiGs, basically flying right close to in broad daylight, basically buzzing American ships. So I mean, what are we talking about here? This is this failure. This is this. Well, here they are in broad daylight, literally buzzing American ships. And actually, this was one thing when we had the guys from the Princeton and the Nimitz. We had Kevin Day, Gary Voorhees, Jason Turner, and PJ Wright on, and also when we interviewed Paco Chirici. One of the things that I asked about during both shows was this kind of thing goes on kind of regularly. How does this juxtapose with these UFO sightings that are out there? I mean, how do these things get so close, and why is this the case? And Gary, his answer was the reason that we're not shooting at these things is that their weapons aren't activated. We can electronically read whether or not there's a weapons lock from these planes on our ships, so we don't shoot at them. We let them buzz us. And Paco had mentioned that this kind of thing goes on all the time. We do the same thing. So rest assured, if there are Chinese fleets and Russian fleets, military fleets sailing, look, we're using the same types of things, whether it's drones or balloons or whatever the case may be, our own aircraft. We're keeping a good recon on them, and I think that Rogoway is getting a little bent here. I don't think that they're quite as in the dark as meaning the Pentagon here. They're quite as in the dark as they're indicating in this as we lead up to this UAPTF report. So I think that is about that. A couple other comments about the release of the video, and I want to get to one other thing here, but one other thing about the release, and that is Knapp and Corbell deserve a lot of credit. I mean, they didn't sit on this stuff. They got the material, they got it out, and basically, hey, look, a lot of people don't like the way that Knapp and Corbell have interpreted the material that they've released. I have to admit, I don't agree with them. Like I said, I don't think there's any question that the one video, the night vision video, is clearly a plane, and then there's a slim possibility that it might be one of these drones outfitted, which would be easy enough to do. If you can build an advanced drone, you can certainly outfit it with nav lights designed to essentially mimic what ordinary aircraft have, just as a way of camouflaging their actions, that type of thing. So I don't think they've sort of tried to back these as definitely extraterrestrial craft, and yeah, I don't think that's the case. But let's go to hang on a sec here. We're getting a problem. Okay, there it is. Then let's go back to the signal. I am a little bit interested in this particular GIF. Rogaway sort of brushes it off as a balloon. He might be right, but there's not enough to go here. And this transmedium thing is, like I said before, it is something that is of some interest. We do have that Aguadilla case as a comparison, and let's hold off on that. But as far as the night vision video is concerned, there's no doubt in my mind it is either a plane. I think that's 99.9% likely that that's what it is, or possibly it is one of these reconnaissance drones from a foreign power that was obviously dressed up to appear like a plane with nav lights and all that. So there's basically that. Now, that's that. I'm glad that I've got one more thing I want to get to. It's good that this entire this package has gotten a lot of attention. Definitely like that, and we hope to see more. But again, I'm a little concerned that the truly extraordinary material is going to sort of get buried underneath this deluge of fairly ordinary drones, fairly ordinary balloons as a way of reconnaissance. So let me. All right, we're going to go to this fellow Gaddy Schwartz, and we're going to have to let this play out. I'll let this play out silently, and then when this is over, then I'll pick up the volume, because there was some messy material in there. So let's hang on a sec here.
Here's the thing about those last three F-18 videos. I recently asked the former director of the Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program at the Pentagon, point blank, are those the only videos that the government has? He said no. Those were probably the least compelling videos. And in some videos, you see an object about 50 feet away from the cockpit. Guys. Now here's the thing about those last three F-18 videos.
Okay, so that's that. We've been hearing about some additional, even better than this video that they've gotten. And well, of course, again, it depends on what the video is of. Did they get close to these kind of drones or balloons, or with some of this video, are we actually seeing, something that possesses otherworldly flight capabilities? That we don't know. So we'll see. We're getting close to this report now. I guess it's a little bit more than 2 months off, and we'll see what's in it. Unless it's delayed, of course. We'll see what's in it, and we'll see. But I have to admit that I'm a little concerned. The most concerned I've been in terms of getting the kind of information that we'd like to see regarding ET driven UFOs. That's what we're interested in. We're not interested in gamesmanship out on the high seas amongst superpowers. I'm not saying that's not important, but what we're really interested in is we're interested in ET driven UFOs, and we can't say for sure I guess the one that you could say that is the most likely to be that's Nimitz case, and then the Roosevelt case. And again, it's not necessarily because of the videos that were released. It would be because of a combination of the videos and also the witness accounts. And we're not getting any additional witness accounts with any of this new material. We're getting it, and we're seeing what we're seeing. So that's basically that. It is interesting, and again, Knapp and Corbell do deserve credit for releasing what they've got, and also they obviously they have the right to express whatever opinions that they have on them. But I'm not seeing anything that jumps out at me as otherworldly. In fact, I think what we're seeing so far is quite terrestrial, except possibly that sphere going into the water, maybe, but we don't have enough on that to say. So that's that, and let's move backwards in time, further back. Although we did talk a little bit about the Napoleonic Wars, and we're not going to go back quite that far, but we are going to go back in time to the immediate post-Roswell era, and maybe a little bit before that, what led up to that time. So recently, John Greenewald, and this is pretty interesting, I think. Some of the comments that have been made by former people involved in high-ranking government and intel positions and Pentagon positions have been making some interesting comments. And the normally useless Greenewald had James Woolsey, who had been the CIA director back in the 90s, on his show to plug a book. But basically, Greenewald got in one question about the UFO topic, and it's pretty interesting. What Woolsey had to say, especially in light of recent comments by John Brennan, who is also an intel guy. Basically, what he said was, I'm not as skeptical as I was a few years ago. To put it mildly, something is going on. I hope that we can be friendly and able to deal with a wide range of behavior in terms of dealing with our fellow human beings or with other creatures if they exist. And I think we ought to be open to that possibility, or open to new possibilities. So I thought that was very interesting because we're still getting from people like now Woolsey has been added. Marco Rubio has alluded to the possibility that some of these UFOs are ET, and Ratcliffe as well. We talked in a lot of detail about his comments, about the comments from both those guys, and it is interesting, and that what has happened recently with Tony Bergalia's FOIA request being granted, and the release regarding material studies by the ATIP program. I think it's interesting that we take a look back because in the post-Roswell era, material advancement simply skyrocketed. And I think I found some reasons for that. In the past, I've talked about how the titanium industry was essentially underwritten by the military, and this happened, and it was jump-started in late 1948, a year and a half after Roswell. So let's go back a little earlier. What we've got a picture here is of a Messerschmitt jet. This was the first operational jet ever during World War II. The Brits were also working on jets as well, but this was the first that was used during the war, and was up in the air and operational. And it is interesting that the jets were not very functional, and part of that problem was the alloys that the engines were made from simply broke down. They broke down. They got maybe 100 hours of usage out of those engines. Okay, so basically the engines had to be rebuilt or replaced within 100 hours of usage. Now that's not very practical, obviously. Another issue that the Nazis were having as far as these jets were concerned is that they didn't have enough nickel or cobalt to build more of these jets. So I think one thing that does is it sort of puts the lie to some of the folks that are making tall claims about the Nazis and having anti-gravity bells and things like that. They couldn't keep their jets up in the air more than 100 hours. So how they were building, these anti-gravity bells, I have no idea. Obviously, that's just pure fiction. It's pure fantasy, because the reality is they weren't able to keep the jets up in the air. But we all know that since those days, what we had was an improvement in the technology to build those jet engines, and a couple things happened in the immediate years after Roswell. You can say it was because hey, we wanted to build the jet engines, but also is it possible that the recipe was sort of laid out for us by the Roswell craft? The improved strength and purity and durability of the material found at Roswell gave us some ideas that we were able to build these super alloys, and I talked at some length about the advancement in super alloys. But now I want to talk a little bit about the advancement in manufacturing processes. Now, these are very important because obviously you've got to build the jet engines, and you have to build them, and it's not easy to create super alloys. So what we needed was some advancement in the manufacturing process, and I don't expect that recipe was those instructions came down with the Roswell craft. That we had to figure it out independently. So one of the things that was developed was the vacuum injected molding furnaces, and these VIM furnaces. Now, the first one was made back in the 1920s. It was actually made by Northrop Corporation in the United States. Another prototype was made over in Germany, but it didn't this process didn't become commercialized. Again, these were prototypes. These were just ideas, but there was no real use for the idea, so it kind of lay dormant for a while, sort of like with William Kroll's development of a process to extract titanium from its ore. He had traveled to the United States in the 1930s in an attempt to try to pitch that to industry here, and it was rejected basically because again, it's very expensive, and they had no idea what to do with it. It wasn't until the military came along and provided a profit margin for the company, the REM Crew, which was the company that was formed, subsidiary of DuPont, hey, well, we can make a profit. We'll make this stuff for you, and that's basically what happened there. But vacuum injection molding furnaces were one way of creating these super alloys. They're not that big because we're not talking about creating huge parts here. We're talking about creating just very very small special usage parts. So we're not talking about anything gigantic. We're not talking about creating entire planes with this type of material. And also hot isostatic pressing, which was a process developed by the Battelle Memorial Institute, and they of course were also created a number of the super alloys that I've been talking about. So this advancement was huge, and it wasn't necessarily kept entirely for jet engines used by the military. Obviously, that filtered out into the private sector, and by the early 1950s, they were already had commercial jet flights. Now, the British jumped ahead of the Americans on this, and it was they were the first ones. BOAC were the first ones to have jet flights, but there were still some problems. The Americans aircraft manufacturers took more of a wait-and-see attitude because it was new tech, so they didn't jump right into that game. They didn't get into it until more the late 50s. But you can see that there was this enormous rush towards metallurgy and technology, not just the development of nitinol in the very roughly 1960, not just the formation of the titanium industry in 1948, a year after Roswell. What you had is this enormous rush towards super alloys, and then, of course, the necessity of developing improved manufacturing processes to keep the to keep the metals as pure as possible, as uncorrupt as possible by atmospheric contamination, that type of thing. So that is why that has happened, and it is very interesting. We've heard in the past in interviews from Robert Bigelow, he thinks that the ET material was actually manufactured in a weightless environment, one step beyond hot isostatic pressing or vacuum induction molding, that type of thing. So it's even further out than that. At least he's speculating. We don't know what he's basing it on. But we will see the Jacques Vallée book. It's coming out in next month, so we'll see what's in there. It's going to be largely about materials, and we'll be waiting for that. We'll be waiting for the UAPTF report coming out the following month, hopefully. So we've got a lot coming out, and we'll see. I've expressed some concern, obviously, with possibly a UAPTF report being somewhat muddied up by fairly ordinary drone and balloon encounters for reconnaissance from foreign powers. We'll see what happens there. But at the end of the day, whatever the case may be, we'll be finding out new stuff, and I think it will be interesting. So that's all we've got. A short show today, and my delivery might have been a little ragged, but I don't have Chant here like always to keep me to keep the flow going while I'm jumping from item to item. It's been a while since I've done one of these kind of shows, but basically, there's your information, and that's what we've got time for. And one thing I can say for sure is we will be back, and we'll have future shows. Thank you very much for listening, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.